Stay tuned for urban legends to ghostly tales of the paranormal, because now it's time for
Message on the Wall.
There are many strange and weird news stories out there, and here Message on the Wall brings just a few weird news snippets that appeared in newspapers in the 1970s and 80s. We begin with the time pigs did really fly. It was reported in the Big Issue that a large accumulation of excreted methane gas in a pig shed near Verona in Italy was ignited by a spark from a fuse box. The resulting explosion destroyed the shed utterly and killed all 500 pigs. A witness said, "I saw pigs fly through the air. I thought it was doomsday." And we move on to New Zealand for another weird story that was in the Sunday Express. A block of flats in Hamilton, New Zealand was the object of repeated assaults by hurled bottles. Among the projectiles were milk bottles, beer bottles and coffee jars. Despite a police surveillance set up to discover the source of the attacks, some of which lasted up to 4 hours, they remain a mystery. Maori elders explained the phenomena by saying that the building was erected on sacred land. The spirits of the land were showing that they were offended. Another set of residents also had their homes hit by things, but they couldn't very well be blamed on any Maori or Indian tribes, with this being seen in the Guardian newspaper. During late 1977, the front doors of 4 old people's bungalows at Castleton in Derbyshire were pelted with groceries night after night. Among the curious gifts were bacon, tomatoes, bread, eggs and black pudding. The attacks ceased when the police were called in. One of the bungalow's occupants, Mrs. Ethel Bramley, said, "It's unreal weird. If people want to give us food, why not wrap it up and leave it on the doorstep?" Policemen also get to go on some strange calls, as reported in the Toledo Blade. A policeman called to the home of a man in Toledo found the occupant in severe mental distress because of the invisible dwarfs that were overrunning his home. Obligingly, the policeman mediated. "I told the one dwarf in the kitchen to leave, then went to the cellar to tell the others. They didn't put up much resistance and left." Convinced, the man thanked the policeman profusely. The question is, how did he know they were gone? Police also intervened when a stuntman planned to put himself on show long before David Blaine. This news story appeared in the Daily Mirror. In both 1976 and 1978, stuntman Eddie Shingler tried to organise his own crucifixion as a spectator event in Nottingham. Witnessing the actual nailing up of Mr. Shingler was to cost £3. I'll add here that was around $5, whereas just watching him hang there would be a reasonable 50p or 80 cents. Both attempts were foiled by the police, who announced that they would arrest anyone trying to nail Mr. Shingler to the cross on a charge of assault. So it looks like he never thought of being buried alive. This could be a warning to take care of who you trust when you think you're possessed or in need of an exorcism, as it's not just demons we have to watch for, with this next story coming from the LA Times. As the final step towards casting out a demon that had supposedly possessed him, a young man of Arlington, Virginia, was told to bring all his money so that it could be blessed by his unofficial exorcist. Unsurprisingly, she disappeared, along with the trusting man's $16,000. There are also plenty of stories when it comes to fishing, with that one that got away. But fishing can be hazardous, as in this story from the Daily Telegraph. A man died while fishing on the banks of the Amazon tributary Rio Negro, having been attacked by enraged bees after accidentally hitting their hive with his rod. He had sought sanctuary in the river, where he was eaten by piranhas. We can't have weird news stories without involving aliens, and this one that appeared in the News of the World. A farmer from Toul in France reported to astounded police that a UFO had landed in one of his fields while he was working. A man and a woman, both naked, had jumped out of the vehicle and proceeded to have sex 3 times. When the farmer tried to approach the copulating couple, he was thrown back by an inexplicable force. After the 3rd time, the pair jumped back into the UFO and flew away. So that could have been some alien honeymoon or their version of the Mile High Club. Staying with alien stories, this next one comes from the UK, having appeared in the Daily Mirror. Mrs. Jean Hingley of Rowley Regis in the West Midlands reported a strange visitation to her local police. Answering her back door one night, she was faced with a blinding light. As her eyes became accustomed to it, she saw 3 figures with corpse-like faces and wings on their back standing on her doorstep. Astonished and confused, Mrs. Hingley entered into a close encounter of the 3rd kind by asking the visitors if they would like some coffee. They refused, but said they would quite like some water. Formalities over, the aliens entered Mrs. Hingley's house and enjoyed a glass of water. On their way out, they noticed some mince pies and decided to take them with them. They would, they said, be back sometime. There's the moral to be careful what you bake. And was that really baking soda? Message on the Wall has covered a few haunted cemeteries, but none like this from the Daily Mirror. Police investigating strange cries in the night coming from the cemetery of St Mary's Church, Felling, Durham, found a full set of clothes and a pair of false teeth, but no sign of the owner. A senior officer commented, "There are no reports of anyone looking suspiciously undressed." I suppose they could have shrouded themselves in some bushes. My apologies, I couldn't resist that one. And staying with the dead, we end this message on the wall with a story from the Daily Express. Jeffrey Wilson, 18, made a gruesome discovery while inspecting the roof of his East London home yesterday. Checking the damage after heavy rain, he happened to glance into his upstairs neighbour's window and saw a fully dressed skeleton lying on the bed. The police were called and identified the corpse as William Blackalley, the husband of the upstairs tenant. Neighbours had noted that he had gone missing about 10 years ago, but assumed that he had left his spouse. In fact, he had died of natural causes and she had simply left him where he was. Mrs. Blackalley is receiving medical attention. You've been listening to Message on the Wall, brought to you by Paranormal X, your website for everything paranormal at www.paranormalx.yolasite.com.